In the vast expanse of the galaxy, where stars shimmered like distant memories and planets seemed insignificant specks in an endless void, Earth was nothing more than a quiet blue gem. Life on its surface thrived in blissful ignorance of the greater forces lurking in the darkness. But all that changed with a single, piercing signal. It came without warning, a broadcast unlike any humanity had encountered before. The signal was an enigma, a puzzle of sounds and encoded symbols that defied understanding. At first, it was dismissed as noise, perhaps interference from a distant star. But when the message was finally deciphered, its chilling simplicity sent shockwaves across the planet: surrender, or be annihilated. Doubt and disbelief rippled through governments and citizens alike. Could this be a hoax? A mistake? But the question of its authenticity was answered in brutal fashion. Within hours, a city vanished, wiped off the map in a blinding flash of light. No debris, no survivors, only silence where life had once thrived. For the first time in history, humanity faced a threat that neither borders nor ideologies could contain. The world, fractured by centuries of division, now stood at the precipice of extinction. In fortified command centers and hidden labs, the brightest minds scrambled for answers, their efforts a fragile hope against an overwhelming force. And yet, amidst the fear and chaos, a spark ignited. It began in the quiet resolve of a test pilot donning his suit, in the unwavering gaze of a scientist poring over alien alloys, and in the determined voice of a leader rallying nations to stand as one. This was no longer a fight for survival, it was a fight for identity, for the right to exist among the stars. The signal had come from the darkness, but it had also awakened something within humanity. A defiance, a will to endure. What began as a threat would become a story of unity, sacrifice, and discovery. And as Earth prepared to face the unknown, one truth emerged: survival was not guaranteed, but they would fight for it. Together. The first spark. In a distant corner of the galaxy, where Earth was nothing more than a faint blue speck in an endless sea of stars, everything changed in a single moment. It began with a signal, seemingly innocuous at first, but carrying an unmistakable threat. The message, intercepted by global observatories, was a series of strange sounds and encrypted patterns. After days of intense analysis, a team led by Dr. Richard Evans decoded the signal: surrender, or be annihilated. At first, there was doubt. Could this be a hoax? A misinterpreted signal? Perhaps some nation showcasing its advanced technology? But before humanity could answer these questions, the first strike came. In less than 8 hours, the coastal city of Aurora vanished without a trace. The few survivors spoke of a blinding white light, brighter than any sunrise, that consumed everything in its path. It left no chance for escape, no time to react. Soon after, all communications and satellites monitoring the area ceased, leaving nothing but an eerie silence. In a fortified global command center, Alex Carter, head of the Earth Emergency Response Unit, scrambled to unify the fragmented responses of governments and militaries. Before him was a chaotic assembly of scientists, generals, and political leaders, all struggling to grasp the enormity of the threat. The situation was dire. Earth was facing a force unknown, wielding technology far beyond human comprehension. Meanwhile, Jason Miller, a renowned test pilot, was preparing for a reconnaissance mission that could determine humanity's next move. As he suited up in silence, his reflection in the visor showed eyes filled with fear, tempered by resolve. Behind him, astrophysicist Emma Steele worked tirelessly, poring over calculations and trying to pinpoint the source of the attack. As Jason's ship launched into space, the entire planet held its breath. It wasn't long before the first images arrived: massive, city-sized alien vessels hovering on the edge of the solar system. Jason's voice trembled as he described what he saw. These aren't just ships. They're floating fortresses. His report brought both clarity and dread. That night, Earth's leaders convened, putting aside centuries of conflict to face a shared enemy. The conclusion was unanimous: surrender was not an option. Preparations for war began in earnest. Underground cities became sanctuaries for millions, while every available resource was redirected toward weapon development and planetary defenses. In a hidden lab, Emma conducted experiments on fragments of an unknown alloy found at the site of the first strike, convinced it held the key to understanding the invaders' technology. Despite these efforts, fear and doubt lingered. In a quiet moment, Alex turned to Emma and asked, "Do you think we stand a chance?" Without looking away from her screen, she replied, "If we don't try, we'll never know." As the first rays of dawn broke across the horizon, the decision had been made. Earth would not bow. Humanity would fight, not just for survival, but for its place among the stars. And as Jason gazed down at the blue planet from his station in orbit, he knew the battle ahead would define their future. It wasn't just about defending Earth, it was about proving that even against impossible odds, humanity could rise and endure. The unified front. As word of the attack spread across the globe, panic gripped the hearts of millions. The once bustling cities fell into uneasy silence, their streets filled with fear and uncertainty. Yet, amidst the chaos, a spark of determination began to ignite. Humanity, so often divided by borders and ideologies, now stood on the brink of unity, driven by the realization that survival depended on cooperation. In a secure underground command center, world leaders gathered around a large table. For the first time in history, nations set aside their differences to confront a threat far greater than their disputes. Alex Carter stood at the head of the table, his voice steady but urgent as he addressed the assembly. This isn't just a war for territory or resources. This is a fight for existence. If we don't work together, we won't survive. The room fell silent, the weight of his words pressing down on everyone. The decision was unanimous. A global defense council was established, uniting the brightest minds and strongest leaders from every corner of the Earth. Their mission was clear: protect humanity at all costs. Emma Steele, now leading a team of scientists, worked tirelessly to unravel the mysteries of the alien technology. In a hidden laboratory deep below the surface, she analyzed fragments of the strange metal recovered from the first attack. The material was unlike anything found on Earth, resistant to conventional tools and seemingly alive with energy. Despite the challenges, Emma's determination never wavered. She believed that within this alien alloy lay the secret to humanity's survival. Meanwhile, Jason Miller took charge of training an elite squadron of pilots. These men and women, handpicked from across the globe, were tasked with flying newly developed spacecraft equipped with hybrid technology, part human ingenuity, part alien reverse engineering. In a vast simulation center, Jason addressed the recruits. "We're not just flying machines. We're carrying the hopes of an entire planet. The enemy won't show mercy, and neither can we." Day by day, Earth began to transform. Factories shifted from producing consumer goods to building weapons and defense systems. Cities fortified themselves with underground bunkers and shield generators. Satellites were repurposed to create an early warning network, while scientists worked around the clock to develop energy shields capable of withstanding the enemy's devastating attacks. In one of the rare moments of quiet, Alex visited Emma in the lab. He watched as she ran yet another test on the strange metal, her face illuminated by the glow of her equipment. "Do you think we have a chance?" he asked, his voice heavy with doubt. Without looking up, she replied, "A chance is all we need. We've faced impossible odds before. This time is no different." The turning point came when Jason and his squad completed their first successful flight in the new spacecraft. As they soared through the atmosphere, weaving through simulated enemy fire, Jason felt a surge of hope. For the first time since the attacks began, it seemed that humanity might have a fighting chance. As preparations reached their peak, a broadcast was sent to every corner of the Earth. Alex Carter appeared on screens worldwide, his tone resolute. "This is not just a battle for survival. This is a fight for everything we hold dear: our families, our freedom, our future. We are humanity, and we will not fall." In the days that followed, the world watched as fleets of spacecraft launched into the skies, their engines blazing trails of light. On the ground, soldiers and civilians worked side by side, driven by a shared purpose. The fear that had once paralyzed humanity was now a distant memory, replaced by a fierce determination. Earth was no longer a collection of divided nations, it was a united force, ready to face the unknown and prove that its will to survive was stronger than any threat from the stars. The Battle of Mars. The silence of space was shattered as Earth's first fleet approached the red planet. Mars, barren and lifeless, had become humanity's first line of defense against the alien invaders. The decision to meet the enemy here was strategic, far enough from Earth to minimize collateral damage, yet close enough to manage logistics and supply lines. Beneath the planet's surface, ancient research bases had been converted into fortified military outposts. These bunkers, once intended for scientific exploration, now housed weapons, troops, and experimental spacecraft. Jason Miller stood at the helm of the lead ship, his gaze fixed on the distant glow of Mars. His voice echoed through the comms, steady and resolute. "We're about to face an enemy unlike anything we've ever seen. Stay sharp, stay focused. If we fail here, Earth won't stand a chance." Behind him, Emma Steele monitored a barrage of data streams from the command center. Every calculation, every signal mattered now. She had worked tirelessly to develop a new energy-based shielding system, and this battle would be its first real test. As the fleet approached the Martian orbit, an alert cut through the chatter. "They're here," Jason muttered. On the horizon, massive alien ships emerged from the void, their silhouettes blocking out the stars. These vessels were unlike any seen before, colossal structures radiating with a pulsating light that seemed almost alive. The fleet braced itself as the first wave of enemy fire erupted, beams of energy slicing through the blackness of space. The battle began with a ferocity that caught even the most seasoned pilots off guard. Jason's ship darted through the chaos, evading incoming fire while coordinating his squadron's movements. The alien ships moved with precision, their weapons tearing through the initial line of Earth's defenses. Jason gritted his teeth as one of the human ships exploded nearby, its debris scattering like ashes in the wind. "Focus!" Jason barked through the comms. "We've trained for this. Use the maneuvers, stick to the plan." Meanwhile, on the Martian surface, Emma's team worked frantically to deploy the energy shields. The alien beams were unlike anything they had faced, bypassing conventional armor as though it didn't exist. Emma's voice was steady despite the chaos around her. "Adjust the frequency. We need to match their energy signature or the shield won't hold." The shields activated just in time, enveloping the bases in a shimmering dome of light. When the next wave of alien fire struck, it was deflected, the energy rippling harmlessly across the barrier. A cheer erupted in the command center, but Emma knew this was only the beginning. In orbit, the battle raged on. Jason's squadron managed to outmaneuver a smaller group of enemy ships, targeting their weak points with newly developed plasma-based missiles. The explosions lit up the darkness, a rare moment of victory in an otherwise grim struggle. "Direct hit," one of the pilots shouted. Jason's voice came through immediately. "Don't get cocky. They're testing us, not retreating. Keep your guard up." As the human fleet regrouped, a new threat emerged. From the largest alien ship, a massive weapon began to charge, its light growing brighter with each passing second. The readings from Emma's instruments spiked. "That thing could destroy an entire base with one shot," she warned. Jason made a split-second decision. "All ships, target that weapon. We can't let it fire." The fleet concentrated its firepower, launching a relentless assault on the alien vessel. The weapon discharged, but not before sustaining critical damage. The resulting blast veered off course, narrowly missing the Martian surface and exploding harmlessly into space. Despite the temporary reprieve, it was clear that humanity was outmatched. The alien fleet began to regroup, preparing for another assault. Jason's squadron was running low on ammunition, and the shields on the Martian bases were nearing their limit. In a desperate move, Emma suggested a risky strategy. "We've been analyzing their communication signals. If we can disrupt their coordination, we might buy ourselves enough time to regroup." Using a piece of salvaged alien technology, Emma's team broadcast a pulse designed to interfere with the enemy's systems. The effect was immediate. Several alien ships faltered, their movements becoming erratic. Jason seized the opportunity, leading his squadron in a counterattack that forced the enemy to retreat temporarily. As the battlefield quieted, the human fleet limped back to the surface. The victory was far from complete, but for the first time, humanity had proven it could stand its ground. Jason stepped out of his ship, exhausted but determined. He looked up at the sky, where the remnants of the alien fleet were retreating into the darkness. Emma approached him, her face marked with both relief and concern. This was just the beginning, she said softly. Jason nodded, his voice firm. Then we'll be ready for whatever comes next. Mars had held the line, but the cost was steep. Ships were lost, lives were sacrificed, and the enemy had revealed only a fraction of its true strength. Yet, in that moment, as the dust of battle settled, Earth and its defenders found a glimmer of hope. They had faced the unknown and endured, and that was enough to keep fighting. Allies in the shadows. In the wake of the Battle of Mars, as humanity scrambled to rebuild its forces and prepare for the next inevitable attack, a new mystery emerged. Deep in the far reaches of space, Earth's listening stations picked up a faint, fragmented signal. It was weak and heavily encrypted, unlike anything received before. At first, many dismissed it as interference or even a trick by the enemy, but the tone of the signal was different. It wasn't a threat. It was a plea. Emma Steele and her team worked tirelessly to decode the message, utilizing every bit of knowledge they had about alien languages. Days turned into nights, and finally, the fragmented words took form: "We need your help. Your enemy is ours as well. But our time is running out." The message sparked a heated debate among Earth's leaders. Who could these beings be? Could they be trusted, or was this some elaborate ploy by the invaders to weaken Earth's defenses? In a tense meeting, Alex Carter addressed the council, his voice steady yet cautious. "If this is real, we might have found an ally strong enough to help us turn the tide. But if it's a trap, we're risking everything. We can't afford to get this wrong." The decision was made to send a small reconnaissance team to the coordinates embedded in the message. Jason Miller volunteered to lead the mission, his resolve unshaken. "If there's even the slightest chance this is real, we have to take it," he said firmly. The journey to the unknown coordinates was long and unnerving. Jason's team flew through uncharted regions of space, where the stars seemed darker and the silence heavier. As they neared the destination, a shadowy planet loomed before them, its surface cloaked in darkness and surrounded by the debris of shattered ships. The team landed cautiously, their ships settling on the barren, metallic ground. The air was heavy with static electricity, and the sky pulsed with faint, blue light. Suddenly, from the shadows, figures began to emerge. They were unlike anything the humans had encountered: slender beings, their forms a fusion of organic tissue and advanced technology. The leader of the beings stepped forward, introducing himself as Kalar. His voice, translated through Earth's communication devices, was calm but filled with sorrow. "We are the Orions, the remnants of a civilization that once thrived across the stars. Your enemy is the same force that destroyed us, leaving only ruins of what we once were." Kalar explained how the invaders had methodically wiped out their worlds, enslaving or exterminating all in their path. The Orions had fought back, but their technology, though advanced, was no match for the overwhelming might of the enemy. Forced into hiding, they had been waiting for a chance to strike back. Jason and his team listened intently, torn between skepticism and empathy. The Orions offered a proposition: they would share their knowledge of the enemy's weaknesses and their advanced technology, but only if humanity proved it could be trusted. When Jason returned to Earth with the Orions' offer, the leaders were divided. Alex voiced his doubts: "They're desperate, but that doesn't mean we can rely on them. What if they're using us to achieve their own goals?" Emma, however, defended the Orions. "If they were like the enemy, they wouldn't need us. They'd just take what they wanted. This is our chance to level the playing field." With cautious optimism, a fragile alliance was formed. The Orions began sharing their technological secrets, teaching humanity how to build more efficient energy systems, stronger shields, and faster ships. In return, Earth provided the Orions with resources and helped them rebuild some of their lost infrastructure. During these collaborations, the Orions revealed a critical piece of information: the enemy's strength lay in its centralized command structure, a massive artificial intelligence core located deep within an artificial planet, protected by a nearly impenetrable defense grid. "Destroy that core," Kalar explained, "and you cut off the head of the snake." But the plan was far from simple. The artificial planet was surrounded by an enormous fleet, and its defenses could adapt to any known attack. The Orions suggested a diversion, using the remains of their old ships as bait to lure away part of the fleet, giving Earth's forces a slim chance to infiltrate the core. As preparations for the mission began, tensions between humans and Orions remained. Many on both sides harbored doubts and suspicions. Late one night, Alex confronted Emma. "You really believe they won't turn on us the moment this is over?" She replied calmly, "We don't have the luxury of perfect trust, Alex. But if we don't try, we'll never know what we could accomplish together." The day of the mission arrived. The combined fleet of Earth and Orion set out into the darkness, their ships carrying the weight of two civilizations' hopes. As Jason prepared for the battle ahead, he looked out at the stars and spoke quietly to himself, "If this is a trap, we'll face it. But if it's real, we might just have a chance to survive." In the cold, silent void of space, humanity and the Orions took their first steps together, not as strangers, but as allies united against a common enemy. And somewhere in the darkness, the enemy watched, waiting. The Great Revenge. Months of relentless preparation culminated in this moment. The combined forces of Earth and the Orions had gathered their strength, devising a plan as daring as it was desperate. The mission was clear: infiltrate the enemy's artificial planet, destroy the Central Intelligence Corps, and sever their control over the fleet. Failure was not an option, this was humanity's final stand. The fleet, a mix of human and Orion ships, moved silently through the void, the stars glinting off their hulls. At the helm of the lead vessel, Jason Miller stood resolute, his voice steady as he addressed the combined crews. "This isn't just a mission. It's a message. We're here to show them that no matter how advanced they are, we won't bow. Let's remind them who we are." As they approached the artificial planet, its colossal size became apparent. A massive sphere, bristling with weaponry and surrounded by an impenetrable defense grid, loomed ahead. Swarms of enemy ships patrolled its orbit, a menacing display of strength. The first phase of the plan began. Using the remains of ancient Orion ships retrofitted with explosives, the fleet launched a diversionary attack. These ghost ships, automated and unmanned, headed directly toward the enemy fleet, drawing their attention. Explosions erupted across the battlefield as the enemy ships engaged, focusing their fire on the decoy vessels. Jason's fleet used the chaos to slip through the gaps in the defenses, navigating through hidden pathways mapped out by the Orions. The tension on the bridge was palpable as Emma Steele's voice crackled through the comms. "We're approaching the shield. Get ready for the pulse." Emma, stationed in a secure control room aboard a secondary ship, had developed a method to disable the planet's energy shield temporarily. It was a risky maneuver, relying on disrupting the shield's oscillating frequencies with a precisely timed energy burst. As the fleet reached the edge of the shield, Emma activated the device. A blinding surge of light flickered across the surface of the planet as the shield faltered, creating a narrow window of entry. "Go! Go!" Jason shouted, steering his ship through the opening, followed closely by the rest of the strike team. The moment they passed through, the shield reactivated, cutting them off from the rest of the fleet. Inside the artificial planet, the scale of the enemy's technology became evident. Towering spires of machinery stretched into the void, glowing with an eerie blue light. The central core, a massive sphere pulsing with energy, was visible in the distance, protected by layers of automated defenses. The strike team divided into smaller units, each tasked with disabling key systems to clear a path to the core. Jason led one of the groups, his ship weaving through narrow corridors as automated turrets fired relentlessly. Every maneuver was precise, every decision critical. "Stay sharp," he commanded. "We're almost there." Meanwhile, Emma and her team worked to hack into the planet's systems, using salvaged enemy technology to disrupt its communications and delay reinforcements. "They're adapting faster than expected," she said, her fingers flying across the console. "We need more time." Jason's group finally reached the core. It was a breathtaking sight, a swirling mass of energy encased in a lattice of alien machinery. But there was no time for awe. The core's defenses activated, releasing a swarm of drone-like units armed with plasma weapons. "Cover me!" Jason yelled as he and his team planted explosive charges around the core. The battle intensified, with each second feeling like an eternity. Finally, the charges were set, and the team retreated as the countdown began. As they made their escape, alarms blared throughout the planet. The core, destabilized by the explosives, began to collapse in on itself. Jason's ship was the last to exit, narrowly escaping the shockwave as the artificial planet imploded in a brilliant flash of light. Outside, the remaining enemy ships froze in place, their movements erratic and uncoordinated. The central intelligence that controlled them was gone. The battlefield fell silent as Earth's fleet regrouped, watching the remnants of the enemy fleet drift aimlessly. Cheers erupted across the comms. For the first time, it felt like victory was within reach. On board the command ship, Emma collapsed into her chair, exhausted but relieved. Jason's voice came through the channel, his tone steady but triumphant. "We did it! It's over!" But Alex Carter, watching the scene from Earth's command center, knew better. "This isn't the end," he muttered to himself. "It's just the beginning of something new." The mission had succeeded, but at a great cost. Ships were lost, lives were sacrificed, and the enemy's true nature remained a mystery. Yet, in the silence that followed, humanity and the Orients found hope. They had struck a blow against a seemingly invincible foe, proving that even in the face of overwhelming odds, unity and determination could prevail. As the fleet returned home, Jason gazed out of the cockpit window at the stars. The battle was won, but the war for survival and the search for answers was far from over. "We've shown them what we're capable of," he thought. "Now, we have to be ready for whatever comes next." And somewhere in the vastness of space, the remnants of the enemy watched, waiting for their turn to strike again. Survival and hope. In the aftermath of the enemy's collapse, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. The artificial planet, once the impenetrable fortress of an unstoppable foe, was now a field of smoldering debris drifting aimlessly in the void. The enemy ships, robbed of their centralized command, floated lifelessly, their once coordinated formations reduced to chaos. For the first time since the war began, Earth and its allies had achieved a decisive victory. On Earth, the news of the victory spread like wildfire. Streets that had been shrouded in fear and uncertainty erupted in celebration. People poured into the underground shelters and fortified cities, cheering as broadcasts showed the destruction of the enemy core. It was more than just a military triumph, it was a symbol of humanity's resilience. But the cost of victory weighed heavily. The fleet had suffered significant losses, and many of Earth's brightest minds and bravest soldiers would never return home. In the halls of the newly formed Alliance Command, the air was heavy with both triumph and grief. Alex Carter addressed the council, his voice steady but somber. "We've proven we can fight and win. But this war has left scars we can't ignore. We've lost too much to celebrate blindly. Now, we rebuild." Reconstruction efforts began immediately. On Earth, cities that had been devastated by the initial attacks were rebuilt, not as they were, but with new designs that combined human ingenuity and Orient technology. Towers of steel and glass were replaced by structures that harmonized with the environment, powered by advanced energy systems derived from the alien materials. The Orions, too, began their recovery. With Earth's help, they established a new colony on the outskirts of the solar system, a place where they could rebuild their civilization from the ashes. In return, they offered their vast knowledge, helping humanity achieve technological breakthroughs that would have been unimaginable just a few years earlier. Despite the progress, lingering questions remained. Was the enemy truly defeated? Were there remnants of their forces hidden somewhere in the galaxy? And what of the origin of their mysterious intelligence? Emma Steele, now one of the leading figures in the Alliance's scientific division, worked tirelessly to analyze the data collected from the wreckage of the artificial planet. What she discovered was unsettling. During a briefing with the Alliance leadership, she presented her findings. "The core we destroyed wasn't their only command structure," she explained. "It was powerful, yes, but there are signs of other systems. Redundant networks scattered across the galaxy. We've cut off their head, but their body might still be moving." Her words cast a shadow over the room. Alex leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. "So, this isn't over," he said finally. Emma nodded. "It's a victory, but not the end of the war." The Alliance leaders knew they couldn't afford complacency. Plans were set in motion to establish a unified defense network, stretching beyond Earth and its immediate allies. A fleet of hybrid ships was commissioned, combining the best of human and Orion technology. Jason Miller was appointed as the fleet's commander, his reputation as a hero cemented by his leadership in the final battle. Jason, however, remained humble. During a rare public appearance, he addressed the crowd gathered in a newly rebuilt city square. "I'm no hero," he said, his voice calm but firm. "The real heroes are the ones who didn't come back. We owe it to them to make sure their sacrifices weren't in vain." As the years passed, the alliance grew stronger. A council of representatives from Earth, the Orions, and other emerging civilizations was established to ensure cooperation and unity. They named it the Union of Stars, a beacon of hope in a galaxy still recovering from the shadow of war. In one of the Union's first major initiatives, an exploration program was launched. Its purpose was twofold: to seek out potential allies and to uncover the truth about the enemy's origins. The first ship, a massive vessel named Eos, carried a mixed crew of humans and Orions. Jason stood at its helm, gazing out at the endless expanse of stars. As the ship's engines roared to life, Emma's voice came through the comms. "Remember, this isn't just about finding answers. It's about showing the galaxy what we can be when we work together." Jason smiled faintly. "Let's hope they're ready for us." As Eos disappeared into the void, a sense of both closure and anticipation settled over the Union of Stars. The war had forged a bond between civilizations, proving that even in the darkest moments, hope and unity could prevail. But the galaxy was vast, and its secrets were many. Somewhere, far beyond the reach of even their most advanced ships, the remnants of the enemy lurked, waiting for their chance to rise again. For now, though, humanity and its allies were ready not just to survive, but to thrive in a universe that was theirs to explore. The Eternal Legacy. Years had passed since the war, but its echoes remained. The galaxy bore the scars of the conflict, yet amidst the ruins, new life was emerging. On Earth, cities once reduced to rubble now stood taller and stronger, blending human resilience with Orion ingenuity. Skyscrapers curved toward the sky in harmonious arcs, powered by energy systems that promised a cleaner, brighter future. The Union of Stars, forged in the fires of war, had grown into a thriving alliance. It was no longer just a military coalition, it had become a beacon of hope, a symbol of unity among civilizations that once lived in fear of the unknown. Through collaboration, they had not only survived but begun to thrive, building a future that reflected the strength of their shared experiences. In the heart of Earth, a grand structure rose, an archive dedicated to preserving the history of the war and the stories of those who had fought it. The halls were filled with holograms, recordings, and artifacts, capturing the bravery and sacrifices that had defined the era. Emma Steele, now a leading figure in the Union's scientific community, often spoke to visitors about the lessons learned from the conflict. One day, as she stood before a group of students, some human, others Orion, a young Orion asked, "Did you ever think you would lose?" Emma smiled, her eyes thoughtful. "There were moments when it felt hopeless, but we learned something important. It's not about never feeling fear. It's about never letting fear stop you from trying." Far from Earth, on a distant planet reclaimed by the Orions, Jason Miller led a group of cadets through a training exercise. The recruits, both human and Orion, piloted hybrid spacecraft designed to navigate the most dangerous regions of space. Jason's voice carried through the comms, calm and firm. "You're not just flying machines. You're carrying the legacy of everyone who fought to make this possible. Remember that every time you take off." Despite their victories, the Union faced new challenges. The war had united them, but peace brought its own complexities. Old divisions resurfaced, and trust was not always easy to maintain. In one tense council meeting, Kaller, the Orion leader, addressed the assembly. "We are here because we chose unity over division. If we lose sight of that, we'll lose everything we built." The council's vision extended beyond maintaining peace. They understood that the galaxy still held mysteries and dangers that could threaten their fragile unity. Exploration missions became a priority, both to discover new allies and to uncover the truth about the enemy that had once brought them to the brink of extinction. Emma's research into the remnants of the enemy revealed unsettling possibilities. "The core we destroyed wasn't the end," she explained during a briefing. "It was a piece of something larger. We don't know how far their network reaches or what else might be out there. Jason, now the commander of the Union's flagship, EOS, prepared for the first deep space mission. The ship was a marvel of technology, a testament to the progress made since the war. As it stood ready for launch, Jason addressed the crew. This isn't just about exploration. It's about proving to ourselves, and to the galaxy, that we're ready for whatever comes next. The launch of EOS was a moment of both closure and anticipation. People gathered on Earth and Orion colonies to watch as the ship disappeared into the vastness of space. On board, Jason stood at the observation deck, gazing at the stars. Emma's voice came through the comms, a mixture of pride and hope. "Good luck, Jason. Show them what we've built together." Jason smiled, his hand resting on the console. "We'll make you proud." As EOS ventured into the unknown, it carried more than just its crew. It carried the legacy of a war that had transformed civilizations, the dreams of a future built on unity, and the determination to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Back on Earth, Alex Carter stood in the newly rebuilt command center, watching the ship's trajectory. "We've come so far," he murmured. "But there's still so much left to do." And so, the Union of Stars continued its journey, its members bound not just by survival, but by a shared vision of what they could achieve together. The war had shown them the darkness of the galaxy, but it had also revealed their capacity for light. In the endless expanse of space, new challenges awaited, but so did new opportunities. And as humanity and its allies moved forward, their message was clear: they were not just survivors of the past, they were the architects of the future. As the years passed, the galaxy began to heal, though the scars of the war remained etched across its vast expanse. Earth, once a solitary planet on the fringes of the cosmos, now stood as a beacon of resilience and unity. The cities that had been reduced to rubble during the conflict were rebuilt, their structures a harmonious blend of human innovation and Orion design. The Union of Stars, born from the fires of battle, grew into a thriving alliance. No longer defined solely by war, it became a symbol of hope, a testament to what could be achieved when civilizations put aside their differences to face a greater challenge. But even in peace, vigilance remained. The remnants of the enemy still lingered in the shadows, their full extent unknown. Emma Steele, now one of the most celebrated scientists in the galaxy, continued her tireless research into the fragments of the enemy's technology. Her findings were sobering. "What we destroyed was only a part of their network," she explained during a Union Council meeting. "The war we fought may have been just one front in a much larger conflict." The Council understood the implications. Humanity and its allies had proven their strength, but the galaxy was vast, and the unknown still loomed. Exploration became their priority, not just to seek out allies, but to uncover the secrets of the forces that had once threatened to destroy them. Jason Miller, now the commander of the Union's flagship EOS, stood at the helm of the ship as it prepared for its maiden voyage. Around him, a crew of humans and Orions worked together, embodying the unity that had become their greatest weapon. Before launching, Jason addressed his crew, his voice calm but firm. "We've survived the darkness. Now, we venture into it, not as victims, but as explorers. Not in fear, but with hope." As EOS disappeared into the vast unknown, the people of the Union watched from across their worlds. The war had left them battered, but it had also forged bonds that transcended stars. They were no longer isolated civilizations, but a collective force, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Back on Earth, Alex Carter stood on the balcony of the Union's central headquarters, watching the stars above. He whispered to himself, "We've come so far, but this is just the beginning. The galaxy hasn't seen the last of us." The journey was far from over. Challenges and mysteries awaited, but so did opportunities for growth, discovery, and connection. The war had shown them the fragility of existence, but it had also revealed their greatest strength, the ability to unite in the face of adversity. And so, Earth and its allies moved forward, their legacy etched not in destruction, but in the enduring spirit of survival and hope. In the endless void of space, they would not just live, they would thrive, shaping a future where their light would never be extinguished.